Welcome one and all to episode 23 of the Kakariko Road Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Petter, and with me I've got my two co-hosts, Chase.
Hello!
And Steven.
Hi there.
And the topic in today's episode is progression of 2D Zelda games. Basically what it is, we'll be talking about how, probably mostly the gameplay, but also other things, how they've evolved, throughout the Zelda history and all the 2D games that they've been making. So I guess first things first, going back to the original Legend of Zelda for the NES.
Zelda 1.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good game.
How old is it? How old is
It
the
came
original?
in
It came out in 86. Yeah.
So it's 33.
So you do the math.
Jeez, that's a long time. It came out a long time ago.
33.
33.
33, yeah.
Petter, what's
Yeah.
9 minus 6?
Hey. I don't like math. I don't claim to be good at math.
Alright, well, as the engineer here, it's 33 years.
Thank you very much. So yeah, that's a pretty darn old game.
Yeah.
And it was pretty groundbreaking at the time. With the
Absolutely.
gameplay and
Was it also the first game that was able to save, or was it just one of the first major ones?
I'm pretty sure that it was the first NES game, at least, where you could actually save your progress.
Which is huge.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like, obviously.
I'm pretty sure about that.
Absolutely.
Something we take for granted these days, but...
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But I think in the same year, because this game came out, I think, in February of '86, and later on in like the fall or something of the same year, Nintendo released Metroid and Kid Icarus. I think those two games came out on the same day, even. And those two games feature a very different way of saving, which is when you get a game over, you get a code, and you can type that code in again to restart at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, interesting.
So in the same year, they kind of tested out that other alternate saving method. But obviously, the way they do it in Zelda makes it's so much easier.
Big surprise, the direct saving is much better.
Right. But yeah, that's a big thing, for sure.
And the hardware was used really well, too, because instead of having the camera move with Link being centered, you had, which is still being used today, also known as cadence, but we'll get to there at some point.
You have to wait another week.
Yep.
Actually,
we are doing our cadence review next week.
Wait.
Well, we actually did it last week.
Yeah, we did it last week. We did not record this out of order.
Oh,
it's so confusing.
my mistake. Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
But what I was going to say was, now whenever Link moves out of the camera, as long as he can move to this next tile, the camera will shift to that new tile. Which is a very good strategy for not, burning out the hardware.
Oh, yes. It really worked. And that's also something that carried on in a lot of the 2D Zelda games.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that definitely a smart way of handling that.
I think it used the limitations of the NES very well. I don't want to make an argument, though, if it used it better than, say, Mario. But I do think it used the color palette very well. And I think that the gameplay was also very good.
Oh, yes. That game is still fun to play around with, I think.
Yeah.
I actually haven't played it in a long time.
Right.
It's been a while for me, but for me, a couple months of not playing that is pretty long.
I mean, it is in your top 2 Zelda games. Well,
oh yeah, it's way up there.
But it is one of the 2 Zelda games you've beaten.
3, first of all.
Oh, have you beaten another one?
4 Swords.
Oh, nice. Nice go.
I've actually beat that a while ago. I just keep forgetting it exists.
Oh, okay,
well,
that's fair.
What else is there to say about the first Zelda game?
Well, it is really smart in ways that it was able to save its own memory. Like, if you put all of the dungeons together, then they form a cohesive rectangle. And all of those dungeons together were saved as a single file because of that.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, I'll find a picture and send it into the chat later, but that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Also, there was the thing that confused the entire existence of the world for years and years to come.
Being?
Where, if you name Link Zelda, you can go on to the second quest immediately.
Oh yeah,
Which led people to believe
What?
the canon name of the character.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Nintendo kind of shot themselves in the foot with that one.
I didn't even know about that. That is Nintendo. Why did you do that?
I mean, to be fair, like at least the way I see it is that's not the name of the player character. That's just the name of the save file. You know.
Oh yeah, but people didn't know that.
Yeah, true.
No.
Because in the first in Zelda 1, nowhere in the game do they refer to the character as the save file's name.
No, they do not.
No.
Unlike
I think that
later games do that though.
I think that started in Link. Actually, we'll talk about that later when we get to that game.
Okay. Let's go to Zelda 2. Very different from Zelda 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see where the game evolved into Zelda 2. I say this loving Zelda 2, but I don't know how we got it.
I don't think it did evolve from the first game, in that Nintendo was still trying new things. They were still experimenting with their games, and they wanted to do something relatively different.
Right, and Nintendo's always been like that. They always want to try new things. I think with Zelda 2, though, they probably went a little bit too out there, or a little bit, although, to be fair, there was no established Zelda formula at this point in time. We only had a single game.
That's true.
And so having the sequel be quite different probably wasn't that strange, to be fair.
I mean, especially for Nintendo.
Looking back on it, though, it is very strange.
Yes, oh yeah. Today it is.
Yeah.
What do you guys actually think of Zelda 2 as a game?
It's probably my least favorite, to be fair, because I don't like side-scrollers all that much. Simple as that.
I love side-scrollers, but to be honest, I actually never even tried it, even though I obviously have it on my Switch, along with the original.
It is probably it's up there as one of my favorite action RPGs. That's one of the ones I'll actually call an RPG, because it actually has a leveling system.
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
And you can level up three different stats and stuff like that. It's pretty neat.
Because that is such a shocking opinion to hear, because the consensus usually is to, bash Zelda 2, because it's so different than anything else.
They hate it because it's different, but...
Yeah, that really honestly, is the reason.
But you really have to put it into context for the time.
And honestly, I hated it for the longest time. It was only really recently, like the last year or two, where I really gave the game a chance. And...
Yeah, thing with me is, like, I don't hate Zelda 2. I just don't like it as much as the other Zelda games. And the only reason I don't like it that much is because it's a side-scroller, and because it's hard to the point where I feel like I need more patience in order to get good at this.
Yes.
In a way. And that's
right.
because and that's the reason why this is the only Zelda game, the only main series Zelda game that I have not played all the way through. I've only beaten the first boss in the game, and I haven't gotten much further than that.
Huh. Yeah, I've never tried it before. Maybe I should.
Honestly, I think this is the Zelda game that would get the most from a remake.
How would you say that remake would turn out?
Well, you'd fix up the controls, first of all. They're kind of not perfect.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of fix the difficulty a little bit. And that's all you need.
Actually, yeah.
How difficult is it?
It's quite unfair at some points.
It's unfair, and it also requires you to redo certain things a lot of times. If you die, there's a lot of backtracking you have to do if you get a game over, for example. I even heard that if you get a game over, not if you die regularly, but if you get a game over and your levels on the 3 different stats aren't the same, when you get a game over, they will all go down to the lowest stat. The level that the lowest stat is at. They will all go down to that.
That's untrue. At least
that
as
not
far
true?
as actually, wait, no. I think that's true in certain versions of the game, but not others.
Okay. And you also lose your XP. That's also a thing.
Oh yeah, you definitely do lose your XP.
Like
which is
that one
annoying.
definitely. The other one, I guess I'm not 100% sure, but I thought I heard that. Like that you.
Yeah, I think what it is the English version has the leveling system is broken.
Oh, really?
And who would ever play the English version?
Yeah, I don't know. Gee.
That is brutal sounding.
Oh,
Yep.
for damn
And,
sure.
Start all the way back at the beginning. Well, not the beginning of the game, but the beginning of the map, and have to get your way to wherever you ended up being when you died.
Yeah, and I had no idea that was like a proper RPG with like stats and such.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like Peter said, you can actually get a game over. You have like a certain number of lives.
Yep. You get like 1-ups and stuff.
Wild.
Basically.
Huh.
Um,
Interesting.
I think it's the only when you get to the very last dungeon, and if you die there, you actually get the luxury of restarting from the start of that dungeon instead of going back to the starting point of the game. But it's only the very last dungeon where they give you that mercy. For some reason.
right,
For
yeah.
some
Because
reason.
you need that mercy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Also, first game with Dark Link.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Use that gang.
Huh.
Yeah, he's the final boss actually.
The final boss even. Yeah.
Where he is literally like the reflection of Link created by the Triforce of Courage to prove himself worthy.
Mm.
It's actually a really amazing moment.
Oh yes,
My extent of like specific knowledge of the content of Zelda 2. This is the last thing I'll touch on before we move on, of course.
Yeah.
Is the two houses that are right next to each other. You have like I Am Air, and then I forget the other one off the top of my head.
Actually, I Am Error was actually meant as a pun.
Wait, oh really?
Yeah,
but you know what
because-
I'm talking about, right? Like there's two houses right next to each other.
I mean, I
One
know
of
the error guy.
houses-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about the other one.
I thought there was two.
I mean, there's Bagu, which is Japanese for bug. He's Error's brother.
but I think
he's
he's
not
in a
next to
different
her.
town, isn't he?
He's a hermit in the middle of nowhere.
Right. He's
Well, someone in the comments, please correct us if we need to be corrected. But yeah, I don't. Maybe I'm misremembering. But in any case, should we move on to the next game?
Well, actually, one thing that I just thought of when you said this is like a pretty obvious thing that we haven't really touched on is Zelda 2 added not only like a bunch of more NPCs, but also towns, which had not been a thing in the previous game.
Right.
I mean,
So yeah, I think,
honestly, like just story-wise, it added a lot too. Like story-wise, it brought in the Triforce of Courage, that all-important thing.
oh yeah,
Oh, of course.
It was the first time that Link was a chosen hero. He was just kind of like a random dude in the first one.
right. And it's
Yeah.
also funny, I think, that in the first game there were only 2 triangles. There were only 2 pieces of the Triforce, the wisdom and power. And I guess the name Triforce wasn't due to how many pieces there were, but rather that each of the pieces were triangular.
Uh-huh.
Well, now we associate it with both.
Right, exactly.
I think.
Now that
Yeah.
we have 3 pieces of it.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And also this
Also-
game introduced the magic meter or magic for Link.
Oh yeah,
to
it
use.
did. Actually, well, I introduced the magic meter. He did have like a magic wand in Zelda 1.
True.
I was gonna say I thought there was like a wand and
But
And the
that's
Bible.
still quite different from how we use magic in many other Zelda games, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
the magic meter concept was introduced in Zelda 2, and
So you know the backstory to Zelda 2, the
Yep.
one that talks about like just the ancient legend and how it explained how all princesses became named Zelda. That backstory is literally the Legend of Zelda. If you think about it. That is the namesake of the series, the Zelda 2 backstory.
well, yeah,
oh boy.
that is true.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. I
That
don't
is
know a
true.
whole lot about the game, so
Play Zelda 2.
Yeah, or at least
will
read
one day.
the premise of it. I would
Yeah.
recommend, like, at least that.
Okay.
It's definitely intriguing for a Zelda
Yeah,
fan.
it's
I'd say.
probably one of the best Zelda, not the best, but one of the best Zelda backstories.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, like as especially for its time, I'd say. But hey, I think we've been talking for about a quarter of an hour about the first 2 games.
Yep.
So let's go to A Link to the Past.
Yeah. Game that started the Zelda formula.
Finally, yes. Finally, we got an idea of what the Zelda formula really is and what it should be.
And color.
Well, yeah, more
Yes.
colors, for sure.
Yeah.
too.
And there were colors in the old ones. Actually,
There were.
the only Zelda
It's
game
more
did
of a
not have
full
colors
color
was the next
palette.
one.
Yeah, it definitely looks better. Both on the like the bits and also with the colors.
Yeah.
But if we're talking progression here, I don't think it's wise to compare A Link to the Past to Zelda 2, but rather to Zelda 1.
Not at all.
Exactly, yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, looking at those two, they
Well,
are
they're
definitely
really-
comparable.
Are there
Yeah.
any 2D Zelda games that we can compare to Zelda 2?
Link's Awakening.
Yeah, that's about the
Partially.
only one I'm thinking of.
True, but I was also
Yeah.
like other things, like not part of the fact that the gameplay is different in those aspects. Other things such as the magic meter that I said before, like that carried on directly
Right.
into A Link to the Past, and many other
Okay,
games.
okay.
There are, like, you could talk about a story progression through Zelda 2 as well, just not really a gameplay progression quite as much.
I mainly meant on the gameplay point.
Yeah, gameplay side, as Petter said, the magic meter. That's the big thing.
I guess.
Right, yeah.
And also like sword moves, started getting more.
Yeah.
You could do more with that from Zelda 2 and in A Link to the Past, comparing the sword from Zelda 1 to A Link to the Past, because they're pretty comparable.
Yeah. Actually,
and-
Zelda 2 is the first game to have sword tutors.
Oh yeah,
Where people would actually
that is
teach
also a
Link
thing.
more moves.
Right, but looking at Zelda 1, there was only one sword move. There was the little stab.
Yeah.
The sword just stuck out
Right.
for like a second and then went back into Link, virtually.
Yep.
And then we look at A Link to the Past, where a regular sword slash is actually a slash. It's a horizontal slash, and it can potentially hit multiple enemies, like one standing, like one in front of you, and maybe one standing, like, you know, diagonally in front of you, kind of. Like, it could hit several enemies in that sense, and it's very neat. And it also, we got the spin attack. By holding in the sword button, you could do a spin attack. And I think that was all of the sword moves we had in A Link to the Past, but that's still a pretty big upgrade, I think, from Zelda 1.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. But I think you said earlier that the biggest takeaway that we can get from Link to the Past is the formula of the Zelda series.
Yes. I mean,
Like, that is by far the biggest takeaway from that game, in my opinion.
it was even the first Zelda game to have the mid-story twist.
Well, yeah, that is true. That is true.
Plot development.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yes.
'cause this game actually has plot going on during the game. The
Right.
first
Yeah.
two only had like a little bit of plot before and very brief plot after, but nothing really during the game.
It's very true.
But A Link to the Past definitely had this. And I mean, there's so much, honestly, in A Link to the Past. We have like companion
Yeah.
characters, like you can go, like you take Zelda through the dungeons, and you take Blind the Thief through a dungeon, like stuff like that.
Right.
And we had like different terrains, like very clearly different terrains, like the mountain, the desert, the fields, the forest. Like it's very
Yep.
starkly different areas for the
It
first
was
time.
also the first one to have actual, like, puzzles and dungeons instead of just, like, push this block.
Oh yeah, that's actually true. That is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. like I said, it basically jump-started the Zelda formula in almost every way, if not every
Yeah.
way.
And in very, very many ways.
Yeah.
Like, I am approaching the end of that game fast now, and I'm just loving it so much.
Awesome.
Cool.
Great. I'm happy for you. I guess an easy comparison here is the next game in the series, being Link's Awakening. Very similar in a lot of ways to A Link to the Past.
Oh, absolutely.
Originally meant to be a remake of Link to the Past.
Right, and I think
Really?
it even was. I think it started out as a couple people of Nintendo who were probably working on A Link to the Past as well, that were just like on a side project when they like were off work. They were working on. They started working on Link's Awakening, and then it became so big and so like it seemed so good, I guess, that they brought it into to work on for real. I think that's how it started anyway.
Right, I think I remember reading that somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely one of the more, I want to say one of the more unique Zelda games, especially with the inclusion of non-Zelda franchise characters.
Right. It's very much in the themes and the story, like those sorts of things. That makes it stand apart from the other Zelda games.
Yep.
And so
You had the Gordos and the Bow Wow, also known as Chain Chomps.
Chain Chomps, yeah, we had Goombas and
Yeah.
And then, of course,
Yoshi.
there was the most hidden reference, the anti-Kirby.
the anti-Kirby, yeah, crazy
Wait,
stuff.
there's...
Yeah, they're they kind of like mimic your movements, I think.
Interesting.
And then they just look like an evil Kirby.
Yeah, they look like
Great.
Ditto transformed into a Kirby, kind of.
That's a very
Okay.
good description. Like Gen 1 Ditto.
Great. Alright.
I guess Oracle games.
Yeah, those would be the next ones. Unless you want to argue that Ocarina of Time is 2D.
Why would anyone do that?
So, for the Oracle games, we see something that is never in any of the future games, 2D or 3D, and that is kind of like with Pokemon. You have cross-game gameplay. I don't know what the best term would be to describe it, but basically progress in one game can carry over to the other game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool, but
Yeah.
they're not going to do it ever again.
No. So basically,
they're not.
whichever game you play second, you can make it a little bit easier for yourself if you played the other one before.
And you can make it so some NPCs will recognize you. And you can get the actual ending of the game.
Oh yeah, you can get the final
Yeah.
boss fight, but you also you get better equipment earlier on, basically as well.
Yeah.
I thought there was more to do other than one jump. I thought you could do more than one jump. Maybe, maybe not.
What do you mean jump?
Like, say I play Seasons, and then I jump to...
So you're saying going back and forth?
Oh,
Yeah, I go back and forth.
No.
don't
Pretty
think
much
so.
what happens is you're choosing whether Link completes one game or the other one first. And all that you put in is a code that you get for beating the other game.
Okay. Yeah, I thought something happened more than once.
No,
More than
there
one
wasn't.
change.
They didn't really have the ability to do that back then.
right.
Yeah, that probably would have been too much to account for.
In the
For a
era
Game Boy
of
game.
Pokemon Red and Blue.
Yeah. So the thing that I did, so I've beaten these games once each,
This was Gold and Silver.
but I beat them both the regular way. Like after I beat the first one, I think I started with the Seasons. I decided not to do the linked share thing for Ages and just do the regular playthrough of Ages anyway, even though I could have done the other way. Because I guess I wanted to wait. I guess I wanted to hold off on that and do it for my
Yeah.
second playthrough, just to kind of experience the games at first the way they are at their core. But then I've never gone back and replayed either, so I haven't done the
Yeah,
linked,
like do
share
the
thing.
flip-flop now.
Yeah, like next time I can do that though. Like I have both of the games, I have them both beaten. I can get this code, so yeah, I can do it whenever I want to. But yeah, these games are very similar to Link's
Alright, so
Awakening.
should we move on then?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving on.
Let's move on. Four
Alright.
Swords.
Uh,
Four Swords is
I
even
don't
though
really have a whole lot to say about this one.
I have a little
I
bit.
don't like this game.
Let's not delve too much into the multiplayer thing because that's obviously the big thing here. But
oh yeah.
one thing that I wanted to mention is that even though the graphics don't show it very well, this was the first time we saw Toon Link.
That's true, yeah.
Well, it's worth mentioning that
I think.
Four Swords actually came out originally in the Game Boy Advance remake of Link to the Past.
Precisely.
Was it like attached to the cart?
Yeah, literally the same card.
Yeah,
Huh.
I have that card.
But I haven't actually played the original version of Four Swords. So I've only played the DSi version.
Right.
But
I mean, they're virtually the same.
Is the Link sprite really that different from like A Link to the Past?
Yeah, totally is.
Yes.
It's meant to be Toon
Yeah.
Link. It clearly is meant to be Toon Link, but it's not as obvious. But this game came out the year before Wind Waker, so it was the first time we actually had the Toon Link design. I think.
I guess
Plus,
you're
the
right.
color palette is much.
Huh.
The color palette is much more bright in Four Swords than it is in Link's Awakening.
Yeah, and like the artwork for the game shows Toon Link clearly.
A Link to the Past is what I meant to say. Sorry.
Actually, I guess you can't talk about this without talking about the multiplayer element, even though the multiplayer element is the really big thing.
Right, it really is. Like
And
that's what makes this game stand apart from the others.
Yeah. And this is probably the most, like, puzzle-focused game, even if they're all the same puzzle.
I suppose. And we had Four Swords Adventures 2 years after Four Swords. Very much the same idea as the first Four Swords.
Yeah, it is.
I will say the item system in Four Swords is very interesting.
Yeah, from what I know about it, it's a little interesting. Sure.
Yeah.
Because for example, a little bit of a side note. I was watching the Runaway guys play through Four Swords Adventures for a little bit, and one of the players just really liked bombs. So he basically sabotaged the whole playthrough because he kept getting bigger bombs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a lot of fun. That's something that I love messing around with in Triforce Heroes, especially. But guess we'll get.
We'll
there.
have to play it at some point still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minish Cap. The Minish Cap.
Yeah, good game.
Good game. Yeah, I think it's a lot of people's favorites 2D. From what I've heard, it's a lot of people's favorites 2D Zelda.
Interesting.
Not
Yeah, I
mine,
haven't
but
played it yet.
it's still good.
But it's got my favorite villain in it.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
We have, but I'm going to say it again.
Yeah. This game kind of it didn't introduce the shrinking mechanic because I think that was in Four Swords, but it kind of made it a very big thing in
Yeah.
the game.
Like,
It was a
Also-
central mechanic.
It's arguably a different shrinking mechanic as well.
Yeah,
True. That is true.
it was a very central mechanic to the game.
Yeah.
as well.
Not even just the mechanics of the game, the mechanics of the world itself.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And it was also it also had the thing where you kept upgrading your sword and you could make copies of yourself to help with various puzzles and stuff like that, which was neat.
Huh, okay.
Toward the end, you could have 4 links because you were actually creating the 4 swords, the 4 sword.
Ah,
You know, simple
yeah.
as that.
Yep.
So I think we have established that we are not counting Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks as 3D. So we'll talk about those now.
I played a little bit of both. I played more of Spirit Tracks.
I've actually beaten Phantom Hourglass, and I like it more than the average person.
Yes, you do.
I don't know what the average opinion is.
Average opinion, I think, is
the,
rather
DS
low.
games.
Yes.
Okay.
I think of both, honestly. I think averagely,
Yeah,
Both
but
games
people
are
see
rather-
Phantom Hourglass as much worse than they see Spirit Tracks.
probably overall, yeah.
Definitely.
Something that's worth
I-
mentioning, though,
huh.
about these 2 games is that we will be considering them 2D games for this discussion because most of the gameplay is 2-dimensional. However, both games have an overworld in which the gameplay is entirely 3-dimensional. So, you know, it's a little bit in between technically, but
I consider all of the isometric games in the series to be 2D.
right. And I mean,
That's fair.
yeah, even though these definitely aren't entirely 2D, we will consider them to be for the sake of the discussion.
Yeah. I like how we've kind of gone away from discussing the evolution of the gameplay a little bit.
Yeah, but I was just about to get back into it. So Phantom Hourglass
Excellent.
gave us a very new type of Zelda gameplay, or especially the control scheme, but also other things like how you navigate the
Yeah.
boat around, and
Yeah.
the dungeon puzzles were very
Yeah, it was-
new, very fresh.
They use the stylus a lot.
Yeah,
The
it's
stylus
very
and the
reliant
touchscreen,
on the
yeah.
touchscreen.
And I
Yeah.
think they were a little bit high on the DS at the time as well. Like they didn't just use the stylus and the touchscreen; they used the microphone. They used the
Did they really?
they used the microphone,
Yeah.
and they also
Honestly-
used the fucking. There's one puzzle where you have to fold your DS together and then open it up again.
Oh, that killed me as a kid.
What?
Like
That's-
literally, it wasn't even a puzzle. It was like, okay, you've got this map right here, and you've got this stone tablet right here. You need to move over a symbol from the stone tablet to the map. So you keep
Yeah.
pressing buttons and tapping the screen for like 20 minutes. You get annoyed. You close the DS. You come back later, open it up, and that solved it. That's how it worked.
Wait, hold on. Did they, at any point in time, did they do the whole, like, I don't know how to describe it. Basically, you turn the DS sideways.
They didn't do
Did
that.
they...
No, not.
I don't think.
At
I don't
least
think the
they
DS
didn't
had
do
a gyro
that.
in it.
Yeah, I don't think the DS could do that. I think that was a 3DS thing.
It did not have a gyro, but there were regular DS games that did play solely on that.
Right, but you could only
camera
play
type.
those games like that. Like those were
Right.
made.
Yeah.
for-
Oh, I thought
I
you were
just-
talking about like Pokemon, where Inkay can only evolve if the DS is upside down.
Exactly. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's. A
Oh
thing.
yeah, that's a thing.
But yeah.
Well, that's beside the point. But
we just
Yeah.
thought you meant that.
the
yeah.
DS is really weird, and Nintendo
It is.
used it really
And,
interestingly
like,
in those.
Which is why I said, like, I think the developers were kind of high on the
Oh,
DS when they created Phantom Hourglass in particular, because it had a lot of, like, it really
Very much
used.
so.
What
those-
else to talk about for the DS games?
We are talking about the DS games.
Yeah. We're back to talking
said-
about Phantom Hourglass now.
I said, what else to talk about? Like what? else to say?
Well,
It really relies on being able to draw on the map a lot. Like most of the dungeon puzzles require that kind of note taking.
oh yeah, and I enjoyed that actually. I enjoyed those aspects of these games. And something I know that Chase likes a lot, and I don't
Most
particularly,
people don't.
is a particular dungeon in Phantom Hourglass.
The Temple of the Ocean King.
Yes.
I was gonna say, is it that one?
Yeah. Steven, just so you know, this is a dungeon where you go into it like 5 times throughout the entire game.
I think when we talked about it before in our recordings, you said that, and I was like, oh please no.
But every time you come back in with new items, and like it's kind of like speedrunning in a way. And I kind of like
So basically,
that. I
what
don't
you're
speedrun
telling
full
me
games,
is to
but-
not play that game, so I don't get annoyed at the mechanic or revisiting it over and over again.
Yeah, but you revisit it in different ways, and you explore different. You sometimes explore the
Sections.
same parts. You sometimes explore different parts. But you like whenever you go in, you solve it in a different way. That's what's important.
Right. Here is my opinion, and I will share my opinion while at the same time moving the discussion onward to Spirit Tracks.
Okay.
The Temple of the Ocean King, in my opinion, even though, as Chase says, they do find ways to fresh it up a little bit each time, but in my opinion, it is too repetitive. The fact that you have to do the temple from the start each time you go there in order to get a little bit further each time doesn't sit right with
At
me
least you
personally.
don't have to climb a giant spiral
yeah,
staircase
I
to get
don't.
to the next area.
Well, yes. So in Spirit Tracks, there is a very similar dungeon temple place tower with like that serves a very similar purpose as the Temple of the Ocean King from Phantom Hourglass, and this is the Tower of the Spirits, and this doesn't force you to redo the same sections over and over. Instead, it just puts you on on a new floor of the tower.
So that one was better in your eyes, then?
In my eyes, it was a huge improvement. Like, it took what was fun about the Temple of the Ocean King, and took away the, in my opinion, rather tedious parts.
I feel like it took it away a little bit too much because while it still serves the same story purposes, going back to the same dungeon, at least as far as I played, you never replayed a part. You never really felt like it was the exact same dungeon that you were exploring in a new way.
That's fair.
It was
That's
just a
fair point.
completely different section of the building.
Ultimately, I prefer the way they do it in Spirit Tracks, and also that game had the Zelda possessing phantoms gameplay mechanic, which was
I was going to
super
say,
neat.
so there's
That was awesome.
So there's 2 things that Spirit Tracks introduced. You had the train, which I personally liked from what little I played, and I know that people might not like it as much as I do. And
I
it
like
also introduced the fandom mechanic, kind of like the Dominion Rod and
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
the songs in Wind Waker, and I
Yeah.
like that too. I thought that was also very good.
Also, one of the
Certainly.
best.
I will say this though, that the train wasn't actually really a new addition. I would say, from a gameplay standpoint, we had the same thing with the boat in Phantom Hourglass. It was basically
Yeah.
the same thing.
Okay. Well, consider that I haven't played Phantom Hourglass.
Right.
So
But yeah, that.
Okay.
So basically, like the train, it was. I mean, it has a few differences, but ultimately, it was pretty much the same thing.
I mean, you still got the cannon, and that's pretty much your only form of gameplay.
Pretty much.
yeah.
But yeah, moving on to I think a big fan favorite, A Link Between Worlds.
Yeah,
That is my favorite 2D Zelda.
it's a solid game.
Yeah.
I like it.
It is very solid.
Very, very solid.
This was
Incredibly
our
solid.
first Zelda game with the 3DS engine that they used, because I think that all the 3DS games use the same, and by all I mean 2, right?
Well, you're
Yeah,
not counting
the
the
same
remakes, like Ocarina and Majora.
Those are definitely not in the same engine.
Yeah,
I'm talking
exactly.
about like the 2D engine that they used for
Right,
Link
yeah.
Between Worlds and Triforce Heroes, which I really like the engine. Also, the design of
Yeah.
Link and having his big hair.
Yeah, I mean, it's very reminiscent of the A Link to the Past design of Link, even though it's
Right.
not
Honestly-
the same Link, but it's still reminiscent, I think.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're going to talk about the evolution of the series, it definitely evolved more from A Link to the Past than it did from either DS games.
Yes.
Well, gee, it's not like it's the similar setting or anything.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I think the
so
the most modern Zelda 2D Zelda game that A Link Between Worlds should be compared to, I think, is the Minish Cap. Because definitely not the DS games, because it's not.
No.
I mean, those two games are very different. But I think Minish Cap is close enough that you can actually probably draw some parallels from the Minish Cap to A Link Between Worlds. I think.
I mean when designing the map for Link Between Worlds, they clearly modeled it after Link to the Past.
That is true.
They even have certain references to it where if you like explore certain areas, you'll find pieces of heart or heart pieces.
Yeah.
But the main mechanic that I love it, is the wall merging mechanic.
Absolutely.
I love it so much.
Yeah, that was a great gimmick of the week.
Yeah. As well as the renting items, which I also really enjoyed too.
Oh yeah, that one was alright.
Yeah.
But I definitely especially agree with you about the wall merging.
That-
That was such a clever game mechanic, which they used in such like smart ways. It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changed your perspective on the maps for sure.
Oh yes.
Literally.
yeah, yeah.
But I like the item renting because that allowed the player to have more of a choice on where they wanted to go.
Yeah.
What
And
dungeons
not-
they want to tackle first.
Actually, we're going to have a different episode eventually on linearity versus non-linearity, but this is
Yep.
a game that's very open to that.
Oh yes, certainly.
Oh, absolutely.
And but then like I guess different players played in different ways. I'm one of those players that very early on in the game I just started farming rupees like crazy, and I bought all the items pretty much right off the bat. That's my issue.
True freedom.
And then compared to me, I
True.
played that game for hours on end, but most of my hours playing that were the stupid QQ minigame.
Oh,
I don't. Oddly enough, I don't remember what that is.
you have to dodge cuckoos flying in from all directions.
It's Zelda, but it's a bullet hell with QQs.
Oh, I remember that. I remember it very fondly.
It's fun.
I was not good
Yeah.
at it.
So, and this was another 2D Zelda game where we had Ganon not be the main antagonist.
Yeah, that
Although,
was nice.
that happens a lot in 2D Zelda, doesn't it?
I suppose so.
Does it?
I mean, you got Vada, you got Bellum, you got Maladus.
Yeah.
Fair? You got Nightmare.
Yeah. Right. So that's something to take away from a lot of the lineage of 2D Zelda is Ganon isn't the primary villain of a lot of the games.
Yeah. Although, actually, in a way, you could compare the final boss to the Oracle games as well. Because spoilers for both the Oracle games and Link Between Worlds, but I feel like...
Yeah.
Actually, I guess you guys haven't really looked a ton to it, but do you know what the linked ending to the Oracle games is?
Nope.
Pretty much it involves Twin Rova randomly showing up and reviving... Well, it's not random. It's tied into the story, but they pretty much revive Ganon's body
Oh.
the way it was in Link to the
see.
Past. And I feel like that boss fight is more comparable than just about any other boss fights that Ganon has had in the Zelda series. To
Right.
Yeah.
the A Link Between Worlds final boss.
Yeah, and that was a really fun
Okay.
boss fight, I thought, where how you like used the wall merging gameplay during the boss fight. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was really clever.
Yeah,
Honestly.
like the whole like as I said earlier, like the wall merging mechanic is so clever and it's used in such clever ways. Like it's amazing. I really love it.
Yeah. I don't. Also, it's worth pointing out that they ditched the stylus movement. Oh,
Well,
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's... I'm
Dang.
happy
that
with
was a good idea.
I'm not sure what else to say about it.
I guess should we just move on to the last 2D Zelda game?
Yes.
Last official, like Nintendo developed.
Well,
2D
I think
game,
we were
yes.
talking the main series Zelda games.
Yeah, and plus I think it's a little bit too early
think.
for us to be talking about Cadence.
We're not talking like Tingle's freshly picked rosy rupee.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
You know, all that stuff. We're
You
not
mean you're
talking
not
about
talking about Wand of Gamelon? Actually, talk about games that can be compared to Zelda 2. The CDI
Please
games
don't.
can actually
yeah.
have a weird amount of comparison.
Like Petter said, Chase, we're talking about the main series.
I'm putting this in a list of possible episodes for later on. I hope you two know.
I'm down.
Please, no. Well, I'm outnumbered.
I am down to clown. But speaking of clowns, there's a clown in Triforce Heroes.
Triforce Heroes is a really weird game,
But
especially
you know
with
what?
the premise.
I think it's probably the Zelda game that I have the most, like, just fun as in like I laugh and I shout, like
Yeah, it
that
looks
kind
like
of
a
fun.
very
Like
hilarious premise.
I've never had that kind of fun with any other Zelda game. Because if you have two friends to play it with, it's just insanely fun.
But are you having that fun
We're gonna
because
have
of the game or because of your friends?
Well, both of
Both.
it. I mean, because like not any game could make me have that much fun. Because the co-op really brings out the fun with the friends that you're playing it with, in my opinion.
And I, not having played it yet, I really like the idea of the costumes. Just there are so many. Like, how many
Yeah.
are there?
There's a lot. Like I haven't counted, but there's a lot. I have 100%ed one of my games. Well, I have a European copy and an American copy of the game,
Right.
Because the game is region locked. Fuck that. But yeah, I have all of the costumes in one, but there's so many. I don't know how many there are.
Yeah, like that sounds like a really good thing to play around with when we do end up playing it together.
Oh yes, it's so much fun. Seriously, like
But the
It's
premise
incredibly fun.
behind it is so weird.
I have made my dislike for this game well known, but I have to admit the costume design is really good.
yeah. And when we play it on
Yeah.
this channel, if we do play it on this channel, it's gonna be a hell of a good time.
We will. We're gonna make Chase play with us.
Yes. And trust me, it is so much fun. It's
Awkward
crazy.
silence from Jace. From Chase. Very awkward silence, but yeah.
Yeah.
And this is another 2D Zelda game that went back to the mission structure from
Yeah.
Precisely.
Four
I mean,
Swords.
Like
This-
not only the mission structure, but the co-op structure as well.
Yeah, like
Right,
very
yeah.
much how we can
Carried
say
both
that
of
Link Between Worlds is best compared not to the previous game, but to A Link to the Past and to Minish Cap. This game
Yeah.
is definitely most comparable to the Four Swords games.
Absolutely.
Of course, yeah, definitely. And we got the totem time. I love going totem with my friends.
It's also got emotes.
It does.
Yes, it's so much fun. It sucks playing with strangers, but
I
if
can
you can
imagine.
actually talk to your friends and play it at the same time with your friends, that is
we'll be playing it over Discord voice chat.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
there's no way.
Oh,
we're
we
not
have
gonna
like
be voice
yeah. There's
chatting.
there's no way we're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Zelda franchise has given us a lot of different 2D experiences throughout the years.
Yeah.
Yep. I will say this. This is basically my closing thought about this topic. The 2D Zelda games, I feel like, compared to the 3D ones, are Nintendo's most experimental. They experimented a lot in 2D Zelda.
Agreed.
That is true, definitely.
It's probably their most experimental ongoing franchise, in my opinion, at least.
Absolutely.
The 2D Zelda games, not the
Then of course,
not
I mean,
including 3D.
Breath of the Wild is quite experimental as well in a way, but
But I'm just saying, like the 2D games series are more frequent
that is yes,
in their new ideas they want to try.
absolutely, and that's I love that. Like that's something that Nintendo is kind of unique with. And
Oh yeah,
I
as
love them
as
for
a
it.
company, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was the last thought that I had. What about you guys?
What about you, Chase?
I've covered most. I haven't actually played the game at all, so my actual ability to comment it, other than blindly hating it, are not a lot. Although if
And
you'd like
that's
me
all
to
right.
blindly hate it more, I can. I'm more than able to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll hear more of your blind hate in future episodes. And
Yeah,
with that said,
absolutely.
thank you so much for listening, people, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Have a good one.